All right, so in this video, I'm gonna break down how to do cornering with no braking on an actual track. And I'm gonna do braking before the corner, but I'm going to release my brakes. I'm not saying that there isn't a time and a place for a front brake drag. There isn't a time and a place to use the clutch, but this is how you practice getting more roll speed, is learning how to do this. And if you learn how to do this, you are gonna get off the brakes when you race and carry more speed through corners. There's a lot of good things in here, a lot of technique, a lot of how you pressure the bike to make the bike turn. And that's why I think, riding without the brakes is a very, very good practice drill. I've seen it with the kids that I train. Their corner speed increases instantly when they get off the brakes. Again, there's a time and a place for every technique, but this is one of the drills. If you want to learn how to maintain and keep roll speed, get off the brakes. All right, well, listen up. If you want to learn, I'm going to break it down. Thanks.
All right, in my last video, I went over not using the brakes in the circle drill and how that helps you build momentum. But in this video, I'm gonna show how you specifically use your body in the corner to get the bike to turn when you're off the brakes when initiating the corner. And a lot of people wanna ride their brakes through corners, but I'm a believer that using your brakes in the corner, the purpose of brakes is to slow your motorcycle down, and that's gonna slow down your roll speed. So I'm gonna break this down in a couple videos and frame by frame. All right, so watching this in real time, it might look like I'm using the clutch, using the brake, there's a lot to see there, but when you slow it down, okay, so right here, I'm on my front and rear brakes slowing down for the corner. This is my braking zone. I get off the brakes right when I sit. So now I've let go of the brakes and I've transferred that pressure onto the front end, and I do something right there in the middle that's hard to catch. I'm actually pulling on my inside handlebar kind of a little bit back towards my leg to initiate the corner and get the bike to turn better. Now let's look at the pictures. Okay, so in this first picture, this is when I'm transitioning, and you can see I still have pressure on the front brake and on the rear brake. And as I transition to sit, what I'm gonna do is now, okay, the front brake is what's loading my front end for the corner and helping me corner. And a lot of people, they will carry that front brake drag and then they end up loading their front end too much. Well, so what I'm doing is transferring the load with my body onto the front end of the motorcycle to keep the forks slightly compressed. And I let go of the rear brake and I go from braking to foot out. All right, so in this next picture, you can see it's kind of a timing thing. Right when my body compresses, it's something that you need to build a natural reaction to. As my body compresses the front end, I release the brakes. So at the same time, pretty much when my butt hits the seat, the front brake and the rear brake get released. And this is where I'm going to initiate my corner. And you can see in my previous videos, I broke down cornering. I have your braking zone, your roll zone. So right here, I'm done with my braking zone. And this is where I start to initiate more than a 20% lean angle. Done with my braking zone, this is my roll zone where I start to lean the bike into the corner. Okay, so I'm done with zone 1 braking. Now I'm into zone 2. And you can see both of my fingers are on the levers, but I am not using them. They're just there in case I make a mistake. And this is probably one of the most important and overlooked things in corners, I think personally, is that outside of my knee, so my outside left leg, I am putting a lot of pressure with my knee into the bike. If I did not do this, this bike would stand up. You have to put the ball of your foot on that left foot peg and push down with that outside knee. And granted, sometimes I have a bad habit of going back to flat foot. And when you go back to flat footed on the foot peg and when turning, you can put knee pressure, but you're not able to push as much pressure into that outside shroud to make the bike lean. It's very hard to get a lean angle like that with use of the bars, but in the next slide, I'll show how you use your bars and your knee to get the bike to turn even more. All right, so here I'm in the middle of the corner, and you can see the corner is starting to get a slight V shape to it. So what I'm doing here is to keep myself from riding out, and you can see the two lines of people riding out in the corner. I'm continuing with that outside knee pressure against the shroud, but what I'm doing is I'm applying slight pressure inward with the outside of my palm on the handlebars, and you can see how my front end is slightly turning. So with the knee pressure and then my hand pulling on the handlebars just slightly, I'm allowing that bike to carve a tighter turn. And so when you do the no brake drill, this is when you really realize the things you're doing with your body to make your bike turn. If you're sitting on the brakes and binding the brakes the whole way through the corner, you'll never know how to get through a corner. You need to practice not using the brakes in the middle of the corner. And this is how you get your roll speed and momentum. All right, so I'm at the end of the corner. What I've done is I've released the pressure on the inside hand, on the outside of the palm pulling inward. I've released that pressure and it's allowed my front end to straighten out so I don't dive in too far to the inside. And then from here on, I can just exit the corner. still keeping that knee pressure, and then I kind of release the pressure on the knee, release the pressure on the hand, let the bike kind of start to straighten up and get out of the corner. All right, so here's a video from another vantage point, real time. What you can see is that ball of the foot and that knee pressure on the outside of the bike. And so we're gonna slow it down here, come over the jump, again, going in. When I land from the jump, I give it a little blip of gas. Okay, so I land, blip of gas, and now I'm on my front and rear brake. Bike's pretty much straight up and down. I get to that lean angle, release the brakes once I sit, both brakes are released, outside pressure with the knee, inside pulling a little bit, you can see that front end turn, and then accelerate out of the corner. All right, so one thing you can look at too, if you wanna know if you're putting enough knee pressure on your bike when you're turning, look at your graphics on your shroud. Mine are already torn up. This bike only has 0.6 hours on it, and I'm already tearing up my graphics. If you are not tearing up your graphics with your knee, you're not putting enough pressure with that knee. So you can see here, ball of the foot, knee pressure, my eyes are focused forward, and I'm off the brakes, covering the levers. I believe covering the levers is really important because in the event of a mistake, your fingers are there ready to grab either lever to save yourself. All right, so here's a shot. You see the ball of my foot on the foot peg, not the arch. If you have the arch, you cannot put enough knee pressure on the shroud. Like I said, it's a bad habit of mine, but I'm really trying to work on getting that ball of the foot on the foot peg, pressuring with that outside knee. And you can see my front end here. This is that point in the corner where it was starting to V, and a lot of the people that I was working with were riding out of the corner. So this is the point where I'm putting that inside pressure and I'm making the bike do what I want it to do. Don't let the bike take you for a ride. If you want it to turn, give it some input, push with your knee, pull with your inside hand a little bit, not a lot, just slightly, and that bike will turn. And then I can exit nice and smooth out of the corner. Okay, so in summary, give this a shot, try to train. You can do this on all kinds of dirt. Right here, I'm doing it in sandy dirt, but you will find if you can do a corner and let go of the brakes when you initiate your turn in, it is always going to be faster than doing it with the brakes, but you have to have a good lean angle. So what you need to learn is to use your braking zone, use your roll zone, and try to lean that bike without using the brakes. Now, granted, when I race and I'm in a heated battle, like this last weekend I was racing and I was in a heated battle, a lot of this stuff goes out the window. But the point of practice is to implement these things when you race and become a better rider. If you're going out and practicing and you're just practicing your same old bad habits over and over again, what is that? It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You need to work on things when you practice. And so me, even at 40 years old, I still go out and I work on stuff. I want to be a better rider, and I want the riders that I teach to be better riders. So work on this. Outside pressure with the knee, a little bit of pressure inside and inward on your hand when you turn, and getting off the brakes when you corner. So I have the prior video on the circle drill and doing it with absolutely no brakes, but this will teach you where you're actually over braking in some of these corners, and it'll teach you how to get off the brakes when you turn. Super, super important. Get that roll speed up, carry momentum through corners.